Hey guys, welcome back to Clockwork and Noodles. Hello, welcome. Thank you for your patience of waiting. I have returned. Your video was delayed because I wasn't even in the country. Pre-birthday celebrations. I am back. I arrived quite late. Your video was supposed to go out last night. We are back now for episode number 9. So I hope you guys can remember what happened in the video. It was a fantastic episode. If you can't remember, I'm going to refresh your brain on all of the events of episode 9 of the second season of Vinland Saga. Before that, make sure you guys are subscribed. We are trying to hit 666 before my birthday, which is technically tomorrow. 2 more subscribers to hit that cursed number. I am really looking forward to tomorrow. I'm going to be out and about. Hopefully get both my videos done today, and then that means I'm back on schedule. Thank you guys so much. There are 2 videos going your way soon. You're going to have the end of season review. I crown top 3 anime of the season. I have to explain myself because I think that's going to be the most controversial video going out on the channel. Overview of spring 2023. There are 4 shows I'll be breaking down next season. Obviously, Vinland Saga is one of them because we have 24 episodes of this masterpiece to look at. And I did have some mega confusion when I saw Thorfinn was okay, but then I figured it was more in his head. Everything's all in his head. I think the entire episode you could debate whether it's real or not, but the point is that it's real enough to make that change. Somebody believes it was real and then they act upon it. It's real enough. The whole start is a massive what if. What if Thors had never died? He had been okay. He'd just been chilling out, waiting for his dad to return. Nod to the VA this week as well. A big old well done, because the VA I have checked out, he's not been in much, but he has. I think the most notable role for the channel would be Fred from Moriarty the Patriot. He starts off just being as normal as possible. We've never really heard Thorfinn talking normally in a sense. He's excited, he welcomes his dad back to the farm. Usually Thorfinn is very reserved and quiet. Threw me a little bit, but I didn't realise that it was more just denial or a coping mechanism. Massive kudos to Einar, who has absolutely no fighting background and is actually the last person to drop. Shock though that the guys just walked away. Einar was definitely a mess. They walk away because I think they realise that it's just too much bother or they've had enough. So happy that the result was that they don't actually get killed or anything, because in a worse situation, if Catil had been your more stereotypical slave owner, he would have killed them. Let's talk about the start of the nightmare sequence, because this nightmare suite sequence is just perfect. A lot going on. There's a lot of symbology going on. There's a lot of ways of reading it, and there's a lot of nods to psychology going on, which is why I think this episode is one of the best I saw in the episode 9 batch. Thorfinn starts by facing his almost deepest fear. His biggest fear was to be rejected by his dad. Thor's approaching. He's happy to the lamb. He's very nice to the sheep on the farm. But then when he appears and looks out into the horizon, he refuses to look at his son. He asks him, "Whose life have you taken?" I believe that Thors would be upset if he knew that Thorfinn had killed people, because he didn't want that for his son. Because he himself had been such a warrior, he knew what it meant to be a warrior, and he just did not want that for his son. He wanted to keep him and protect him. Quite similar to Catil, who does not want Omar to be a warrior. He wants to keep him with him, but different reasons, because at the same time, he's scared of losing his son completely. He's already lost one. He doesn't want to lose the other. And he doesn't even look at his son. He has his back turned because he's just disappointed. Sometimes someone's disappointment is worse than being angry. The whole "I'm not angry, I'm disappointed" type thing. That's worse because it's generally coming from somebody you care about. The repeating dream theme has been a thing throughout most of this season. Completing the dream sequence, completing the nightmare. Thorfinn sees it through. The person he's killing is Einar. As I've said a few times, it's not Einar who died, obviously, because Einar is still alive. But Einar is a representation of anybody could have been at the end of your knife. All the people that you have killed could have been like Einar. They have families. They have people that they love. They have things that they want to do. That is the point, because Einar has grown so close to Thorfinn, it makes more of an impact for him to see somebody close to him at the end of the knife. Any of the people that you have killed could have been your friends. I think that is why it's very important to have a face that he recognizes, but at the same time to remember he's aware of what he has done. Nothing more says it when you start dreaming about killing somebody very dear to you. You know that you're in a very bad place. You know that you've gone down a very dark path. Moment when we're seeing Thorfinn looking quite haggard in a sense, beyond his years, and he looks a lot older considering that he's younger than Einar in this. We see this picture and Thorfinn really looks old. Just remembering the words finally the thing that he had forgotten is "you have no enemies." I figured it was probably this. vaguely recalled it in the last episode. Thors wanted him to know since the start, since episode 1. I think Thorfinn appears in episode 1. This is what I want for you. I want you to have a life where you don't see people as enemies and you don't have to kill anybody. The next moment is when we see Thorfinn trying to apologise. He says, no, this is all me. But we also see Thors as a dad apologising, saying like, I never wanted any of this for you. He blames himself for not having any time with him. Like, Thors was taken in a crucial growing period of Thorfinn as a child, and those younger years are very, very important. Without having a father figure around, Thors is blaming himself. There's a lot of really nice moments where characters finally really get to say what they mean in this sequence. People like Askeladd finally getting that I'm going to talk to you and actually protect you at the end of it. There's a lot of this going on in this sequence. There's a lot of people finally just getting things off their chest. He is blocking the sun. It looks like he's shielding him from going to heaven, and I'm going to say heaven and hell quite a bit, whether you believe it or not. The sun being blocked from Thorfinn because Thors doesn't want his son to join him just yet. You're not ready. Him blocking as well seems that he's trying to block a lot of the burden from Thorfinn. When we have that famous knife signalled in season 2 and we were all excited, this knife fall is repeated and it's in 2 phases. First phase is when we see it falling out of Thors' hand, because this is where it starts. As soon as he died, that's where this hell began and the knife falls down. Thorfinn falling. And I love the fact that it looks like Thors stays where he is and it feels like Thors is up in heaven. Thorfinn then falls right back into hell. It is brutal. This is one of the most brutal scenes that I have seen in a while, with the nails and the snapping and the sounds and the screaming. I can imagine that must have been very difficult on the voice actor to even record, especially somebody who hasn't done a lot of roles. All of the other characters he's played are stereotypical nice characters. Thorfinn is a complicated character as it is anyway. If the voice actor does not get an award for playing Thorfinn, I will be very sad, because I think he deserves it, with the screaming, the turnaround right at the end of this sequence as well. Perfect. His voice was just perfect, and when he turns into the crying Thorfinn, you hear that pain in his voice, and we've waited 30 episodes just to see this happening. Is this Valhalla? Have I died? Valhalla is the warrior path. Find glory on the battlefield. I like the fact that it's represented, if this is what it is, it's represented as hell, essentially. There's a really nice use of lighting as well. The absolute terror and fear in Thorfinn's eyes as he hears Askeladd's laugh. It's just the laugh, and it's enough to tell him, I know who's there. I know who's opposite me. I have missed him. He's a fantastic arsehole, and his voice actor is awesome at doing his job. Also, seeing him up on a pedestal, I did wonder if that is because Thorfinn has raised him up to be something maybe more than what he actually is, because of how important Askeladd has been. The man who basically destroyed his life. He became obsessed with Askeladd. He was going to kill Askeladd. He was going to get his revenge on Askeladd. And obviously he was taken before he had a chance, and that left Thorfinn empty. I'm very glad that he wasn't able to kill Askeladd, because he would have had his revenge, but then he would have also felt really bad for taking his revenge eventually in this point. Askeladd's words, everybody down here is your enemy, which mirrors what we've heard from Thors. Thors being the dad trying to tell Thorfinn that nobody's your enemy, whilst Askeladd believes that absolutely everybody is your enemy. The knife then completes the journey into hell. We see it falling down and landing in the blood down below. It shows you that everything here is connected. It fell from his dad, and his dad is now dead in heaven, hopefully, because I think Thors was a very good character. I think if anyone's going to heaven, it would be him. Obviously, he's a very complicated character, and I think what this anime does is it writes complicated characters very well. And not everything is black and white. It's not just good and bad. Characters can have a bit of both within them. It's just how they act, how they start to try and carry themselves at the end that makes a big difference. And with Askeladd, all the way through and through, it's always been anger within him. Askeladd narrating is really, really cool, but it's also weird. This is the man who created Thorfinn. This is the man who destroyed his life. It's Thorfinn almost realizing that he's had a relapse. I hit somebody, I'm no better than everybody else, I'm back here. Infer that he's had a few of these dreams before where he's been in hell surrounded by everybody. It's a relapse. I think this is a very clever way of writing a relapse into a very bad place. Thorfinn has hit somebody, triggered those very negative memories, those very negative feelings that he's probably had buried away, and now he's back in hell again. Thorfinn's eyes that are opened by Askeladd's words in the end. You need to keep your head up. You can't end up back down here again. You need to always be heading forward. And it's also the way as well that Askeladd is the one who tells Thorfinn, you're being really mean, kicking all of these people down away from you, but you're the one who killed them. Pretty mean right now. You should at least hear them out. He realizes that the people reaching him, trying to grab onto him, they're crying. Tone shift kicks in, where it's gone from horror to just sorrow. And this is how you write emotions. Thorfinn this week is just so perfectly written. It's very rare that I'll give a 10 out of 10, but this episode is a 10 out of 10. Askeladd, who ends up jumping in to save him, because I do feel like Askeladd knows he's also equally to blame. All of this applies to him and how he's ruined lives, and he knows that he's ruined Thorfinn's life, and maybe with the fact that Thorfinn is still alive and this is his chance to kind of attempt one bit of atonement, something decent in his life. He tells Thorfinn that you can't fall back down here. You have to keep your head high. You have to keep going. It's strange that the man who destroyed his life is now the man who's pushing him to continue to live. It's quite poetic. Pose Thorfinn falls into as he wakes up from his hell, perfect of a man who has just climbed out of hell, who is reaching up for the light that is breaking through the clouds. Absolutely perfectly scripted. The quiet snow that is falling, the quiet piano. The scene doesn't need much. It just needs to be quiet. It's always very nice to just check scores occasionally. And season 1 of Vinland Saga, the big one, which had us all hooked with the fight scenes and the epicness, that was an 8.7. Now, for a season which has been farmland, not a lot going on, sadness and trauma, the season also has 8.7. That is how you write a masterpiece. Get an 8.7 whilst you're doing everything, and then get an 8.7 whilst you're doing nothing. That, I think, speaks louder than words. The last bit that was absolutely perfectly done was the big crying moment in front of Einar. Thorfinn telling Einar, I could have killed anybody. I've done a lot of bad things, but I don't want this anymore. And we see him crying and upset. This is me opening up. I'm telling you that I didn't want to hit that person. That I should not have hit that person. It is wrong to use violence to solve my issues. We see the birth of Thorfinn the pacifist. Wants to try atoning. He knows that he could never fully atone for any of the things that he's done. I now have to live my life better. I've got to be better to try and start myself on this path of healing and being better. I think the moment at the end where we see Thor's finally able to move into the sunlight, into that golden light, because he realizes his son has finally learnt the hard way what Thor's has always been trying to tell him. Nobody here is your enemy. People are acting in certain ways, but they're not initially born to be your enemy. You don't have a right to go and kill people. With Thor's as well, him also being a warrior, the same obviously applies. So that's why he, more than anybody, was burdened by the weight of everything that he did, and he just decided that I just don't want this for my family. Stands up for what is correct. He does not punish them. He actually, thankfully to Patir, he ends up finding the button, which actually incriminates the guys, which is great. We got very lucky. Our characters could have very easily just been killed at this point. That could have just been the end of Vinland Saga. To be fair, it does feel like this is an end of a season, despite the fact that we've got a whole season ahead of us. With the way this concluded, the way it all wrapped up, that we finally had this big old full circle character development, really did feel like it could have been an end of a season. We do actually have a lot of episodes. We've still got 15 to go still, so we're fine. We have a whole new season on head. It's going to be very interesting to see where we go now, because we've come through a big arc. Thorfinn, it spans so many other arcs to get him to this point where he's finally a better person. He's finally become driven. He's got a motivation. We see him working in the fields, trying to work hard. I will work hard to get my atonement. It's going to be interesting to see where we go. I can't imagine where the season's going next, but it does seem next week we're having a break. I say next week, it's literally Monday for us. Canute is coming back. I think we need a bit of a break from our boy just to get a bit more impact going on. We're going to go and see what's happening with King Canute, because King Canute is also another character who's very well written. I will one day finish my Canute cosplay. It's going to happen. Thank you guys so much. I am so sorry for the delay. I hope at least my little breakdown and my little thoughts is interesting and serves as a refresher before the episode on Monday. Thank you guys so much. Take care of yourselves. Bye bye.